Welcome back to another episode of Futureproof. Today, I'm very excited to have an automotive executive on the podcast that has been through many transformations and many changes within his career, working for businesses such as Lear, Delphi, and the Tenneco automotive business. So let me introduce Enrique Orta, somebody that I've known for some time now, but somebody that's very experienced in automotive and has achieved a lot. So Enrique, allow you to introduce yourself.
Okay, thank you, Tyler. I think you forget a couple of points about my personality and my profile. I'm Spanish, as you can see by my accent. Being in the industry in automotive, I think I was born into automotive because, I will explain later when we have a little bit of more details. But being in automotive all my life, living currently in Germany. I've been away from Spain since 2005, and as you say, taking a lot of different responsibilities in companies across almost all product categories in the automotive, from powertrain to chassis to electrification and now connectors. So happy to be here with you, Tyler, and happy to share a little bit of time with the audience.
Perfect. Well, Enrique, let's just jump straight into it. As you said, you've spent a lot of time within the automotive industry. What was it that attracted you to get into automotive?
Well, I think I was born into automotive. I think my father had a family-owned business, which was basically automotive components. It was related to catalytic converters, mufflers, exhaust systems, and he founded that business in 1970, and I was born in 1971. So everything I learned and know since I was a kid was automotive parts, right? So I was going with him on the weekends to spend time in the office, in the factory, and I didn't have any other preference or any other wishes in terms of career. So I was always thinking that automotive was running through my blood and through my veins. So that's
okay. So being born into automotive, then was it always the goal then, coming into kind of your father's company, as you said, to then build up to either start your own company, be a leader of another business? Is that what the goal always has been?
Yeah, I think always been my first goal, Tyler, has always been trying to be, leading teams. I think the quality of the people that works in automotive is extremely high in terms of commitment, in terms of engagement. The demands of the automotive industry per se is probably one of the highest in the world. Is the speed to change, the amount of pressure that we receive is huge. So it's important to have teams, and to lead those teams was for me kind of my goal. So that was exactly what I joined the automotive industry, and that was my goal, to become one of the leaders in the industry.
Okay, and obviously you've done that in multiple different businesses. So let's just touch on obviously your time at Tenneco. Grew within that business. I think you spent something around 22 years within that business. So give us a kind of little bit of information of your journey through Tenneco.
Yeah, well, Tenneco is a great company. I spent half of my life there. It was really part of my growth as a professional, also as a person. I have the opportunity to join them. Tenneco acquired my family business in 1995, and as of that point, I started to work with them and started in HR, controlling and logistic departments. And through the career, as you say, 22 years there, I managed to get up all the way up to officer of the company, running one of the divisions worldwide. As I say, I think what I take out of Tenneco is a company that we're going through very difficult times, with disinvestment in many other sectors of the conglomerate of companies, and staying in automotive that they really believe it was the future. And I think it was a great journey for me. I happened to learn a lot of people in that time. I had the global exposure, which was really, really interesting for me. So great company. Today they're going through a period of time with the consolidation of Federal Mogul and all that. So also complicated in terms of the product portfolio, right? Being more commoditized, more traditional products, right? So it's something that it was one of the reasons why I left Tenneco was, the future of the product portfolio that they had with the subsystems and with the shock absorbers mainly.
Yeah, so exactly, from you spending so much time in Tenneco, obviously a great story in terms of taking over your family business and then growing through the Tenneco ranks. But you worked in both clean air, you worked in ride performance. So what would you say, especially let's start with clean air then, the emission side of the business? What were the biggest challenges you faced within Europe?
Well, I think the cleaner side, and I think the emission in general, the regulations are becoming tougher and tougher, right? So when I started in this industry in 1995, the level of emissions were probably, I would say, 4 or 5 times what the level of emissions that a car has today, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And when you go into the Euro 7, the new regulations, a lot of that, the requirements from the governments are forcing this electrification trend to become faster, you know. I think what we see more and more is that it gets to a point where the equation between emission regulation and cost versus electrification is starting to make sense. And that's why you see big players like Volkswagen, Volvo, and others talking about meeting their goals on 2013. And not only that, they're also making sure that the electrification introduction is going to be in a fast track. Today, emissions, if you compare cars compared to 20 years ago, and in some cities, like in the case of China, we did some studies that the incoming air was more polluted sometimes than the outflow of the car, you know, after all the filtration systems, all the catalytic converters, the DPFs, and so on. So a very interesting industry. I think the emission control business is going to continue. It's been increasing content per vehicle heavily, but it gets to a point now that the equation is turning more into the direction of the electrification. And for the first time, I think electrification is economically valuable for the cars and for the car makers. So that's going to be a big change in that industry.
And was that something even when you was there now, because obviously you left a number of years ago, but was that something you was focusing on there, just how far this product can go because of the move into electrification?
Yeah, I think you always look about the disruption in the market, right? What is going to happen next from a regulation point of view, but also from a technology point of view. I think from a technology point of view, I think what the biggest changes in that industry was the introduction first of the catalytic converters, followed by the DPFs, and then all the injection system that was created there to increase even the combustion conversion of gases into no polluted gases, right? So I think that was one of the drivers, and definitely Tenneco was very focused on paying attention to that. I think the other thing that it was very important is the regulation. Okay? Yeah. I think when you go from Euro 3 to Euro 4 to Euro 5 to Euro 6, every time the regulation was going one notch or two notches above, you know, and as the previous one, to the level that, as I mentioned before, you know, a car in a Euro 4, Euro 5, it has probably a reduction of emissions close to more than 50% versus Euro 6, Euro 7, right? And that to me is that I think the question is always to what point the emission level is going to allow us to be, from a technology point of view, competitive, you know, and cost effective. And that was the biggest concern of Tenneco, okay? On the other side, Tenneco had also very big concerns about the right performance business, the Monroe business. And it was about the introduction of the electronic suspension, right? I think traditional suspension was heavily commoditized. And here was about increasing the content per vehicle and also getting into that electrification of the car, right? And electrification of the suspension system. So in both cases, one was led by the legislation and the emission criteria that was put into the market. The other one was more into the technology and the safety of the passengers, right? So
okay,
very interesting in both areas. But
and if we touch base on the clean air portion, then how much of effect was the whole kind of VW scandal? Did it affect the business with you guys, or what was the situation in that sense?
I think the scandal was a big wake-up call for everybody in the market, right? I think the diesel gate, it forced governments to look even deeper into not only the regulations that were there, but also to make sure that all OEMs were fulfilling those regulations to the law, you know, and to the intention of the norms, right? And at that time, I think before it was kind of the requirements were very clear on what was expected. I think what it was not so clear that the fulfillment of those requirements, you know, and the way of fulfilling those requirements. And I think that's where there was some room for interpretation. And as a result of that, we have the diesel scandal, right? So I think that now is gone. I think that the requirements are clear. The way of getting to those requirements and validate the cars are very clear, and everybody's fulfilling the rules. And there's no room for interpretation, which I think is going to avoid a lot of future problems.
Yeah, no, I agree, and I expect from that just made the governments a lot tougher on the regulations that were already set.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think toughness in the regulations, yes, and also how you get to that, that levels of emissions are completely validated and completely double checked by the legislators, right? So that's going to be more and more the dynamics that we see, and it's not only a European thing; it's becoming a global thing. Before it was always the leading was Europe and kind of some states in North America, especially in California. And now it's kind of becoming a global thing and a global standard.
Okay, and then obviously you mentioned that you moved into the Monroe business. You headed up that globally SVP of the Ride Performance division. So what were the challenges you faced there? I know you just mentioned it was going into the electric suspension. So what were the main challenges you faced there, and how did you overcome them?
Yeah, I think the Monroe business is a business that is a very circuit shoulder in a car is a very crucial element of the car, right? And from a safety point of view, it's obviously affecting the safety of the car, together with the brakes and the wheels. It's kind of the safety triangle that we talk. From a consumer point of view, it's also affecting the comfort of the driver and the passengers in the car. So very important there. But on the other side, it's a product that is being commoditized heavily in the last years, right? So you're talking about the product that is heavily affected by comfort, noise, vibration, and safety. But on the other side, customers are paying very little for this product, right? You can imagine that a cost of a total set of a car is about anything between $15 and $20 per car, and in that you have to include all the content of the element of the product, right? Which is pretty heavy. So that was critical because the margins are limited, and thinking about more comfort, more safety, more performance, there was the electrification of the component, right, of the product. And that it was a kind of a big change in the mentality of the OEMs, because people was not willing to pay for a suspension system that amount of money. Yeah. And when you're talking about electrification, you're multiplying the numbers of revenue and also the number of content and cost by 4, 5, 6 times. Okay, and that was a big thing of convincing people to increase the take rate and to include this element into their offerings in the dealers, in their in the packages. I think people like Volvo and others, they were ahead of anybody else in terms of adoption, and that's what we see today. I think today is probably adopted. Some kind of electrical suspension is adopted in the majority of the vehicles, especially in the high-level vehicles and the high segment, and it's becoming more and more. And as we're getting into more autonomous driving, that comfort, that safety in the vehicle, that reaction time, performance is going to increase. So we see that there's opportunities there, for more technology. Okay,
and as you said, from 2 product areas that have a future, but how much of a future within the industry, they're moving from there into the Delphi business, a large scale leading organization, should I say, in their product field. So tell us a little bit more about that, because it was a totally different product area.
Yeah, it was a completely change, and that was one of the changes I was looking for, Taylor. When I was looking for, something that has been commodity, traditional product in the car, to something that was going to bring that technology, change, and that technology that is going to be in every vehicle in the future mobility. Yeah. And that Aptiv was able to provide. I think Aptiv is a leading company in that area, with the products, with the infotainment, with their active safety and user experience, but also with their wiring or electrical distribution systems and their connection systems, right? So I was given the opportunity to lead their connection division, which was a very significant, sizable business with a big future. Not because of the traditional product that is kind of a library, very catalog-driven product, but also with the evolution of the mega trends, the electrification, the connectivity. Connector that enables all that technology, right? And you think about every device is connected to a wire, and every connector it provides, the signal and the power to that device. Okay, so connector is, as I always say, is a piece that can cost 50 cents, but it can make the car not functioning. Okay, so it's very, very important in the car and the car architecture, and we are seeing more and more content in terms of more density, but also there's going to be a more, and the quantities, the amount of connectors that we see in the new architectures are going to increase significantly.
Okay, and so for you, as you just mentioned, you moved into a product area that is the future, that's going with infotainment, connectivity, really flowing through, and something that is future-proof in a sense, because as you said, every wire has a connector, and the connector is the power to whichever product that would be. So what are the differences in challenges that you face now in this product that's very future-proof compared to the products such as the emissions or such as the shock absorber?
Well, I think that the products, in general, the car industry, has evolved more in the last 5 years than in the last 50 years in terms of technology and change. If we see the mobility in the next 10 years, Tyler, is going to be safer, it's going to be more sustainable, it's going to be better connected to the environment, and it's going to be cleaner, okay? So when you think about what would mean clean in my times when I started in automotive, clean was the catalytic converters, right? Yeah. Today, clean, it means full electrical vehicles, right? Which zero contamination, zero emissions, right? When you think about safety, for me, safety was ABS and airbags, right? The safety of the future is going to be full autonomous driving vehicles, right? Driverless vehicles, where, as you know, close to 90% of the accidents are caused by humans, okay, by human errors. So that's going to be that thing. And then in terms of connectivity for us at the time was, the radio, the telephones. Today and in the future, the connectivity is going to be connectivity to everything that we have in our house, or in our office, right? People want to get into the car and they want to be able to connect their devices, to be able to be on a wireless service, to be able to communicate with data, to be able to do groceries, and so on and so forth. So definitely there's a change. There's a change in every element of the car, and especially in the ones that we are today with Lear, on the connectivity side, it's a bigger change, and it's going faster, it's coming faster. So very excited about the future. I think the connectors is kind of the enabler to all these technologies that are coming into the vehicle. And they're present in every megatrend. They're present in the electrification with the high voltage connectors, with everything that is managing the high frequency, high current. It's present on the connectivity with the high speed connectors, that it used to be Ethernet and less than 1 giga. Now we're talking about 10 gigas. So moving very, very fast. And then it's also in the connectivity side, right? Supporting all the devices that are giving service to the customers and to the drivers, So really excited about what is coming up in the new mobility and the new vehicle architecture, which is going to be a big change to what we see today.
Okay, so as you just said, now within the Lear business, obviously another huge mega company, should we say, in terms of automotive, and a leader in their product areas. So what's interesting for us to understand as well is you now moving into a business that you had the connection experience from Delphi, Aptiv, so you know the product, you know the trends. Now moving into Lear, how do you approach that situation in terms of analyzing the company to understand what you need to do?
Well, I think Lear is a great company. Okay, it's one of the tier ones that have always been ranking in the top 10, of revenue. Okay, if you look at the company, it's a 21 billion company, 170,000 people, 270 plants. Big 400 platforms are using our products. So really present in every industry, in every car maker, and almost in every car model, right? I think one thing that Lear has been lacking is attention to that connector business. Okay, initially, as many wiring companies, what they did was, okay, we buying all these connectors. Can we do it ourselves? Can we buy somebody to do it? And that was kind of what they stopped. I think with the new strategy that we are trying to put in place, what we're trying to do is, okay, growing on the back of and on the support of the mega trends that we mentioned, electrification, connectivity, autonomous driving, see how we can grow that business, okay? And with my experience previously with Aptiv and also with the entrance, which is big entrance of our electronics group and our wiring group in Lear, I think we can provide full system solutions to our customers. And that's basically what the customers want, because one of the things that the OEMs are facing is the amount of change is so big that they need big suppliers to support, okay? Support in the development, support on the engineering, support on the industrialization, and support on the vertical integration. So they don't need to deal with 500 suppliers in a car, but they can deal with 200, right? Yeah. So there's more consolidation and there's more system approach than component by component approach.
Okay. And is that something that Lear as a business was focused on prior to the arrival of yourself, or have you really drove that aspect of the kind of full system supplier into a customer?
Well, I think Lear started to bet heavily on the E-Systems with a few changes in the management team, right? I think they brought Carl Esposito to run the business. You know, they brought a few people who were heavyweights in the industry. And obviously with that, they brought me here to reinforce and to focus more on the strategy of the connection business, right? And being here for 6 months, I have to say, you know, I'm very pleased with the reaction from Ray Scott, our CEO, and how he's supporting the strategy and how he's supporting the team, you know. And I think we are making significant steps in the industry, and we want to make this part of the company relevant, you know. I think we want to be a minimum 50% of what is the E-Systems business, and significant overall. Lear is traditionally a seating company, you know, being leaders in the seating industry and in the seating supplier. But I think Ray and the team and the board is very clear that future is also on the E-System division, and that's why we are investing a lot of our time and a lot of our focus and a lot of our resources.
Okay, I understand that. So then when you're looking into those aspects of those guys really focusing on implementing these strategies, these structures to be able to get there, is it a case of internally that there's competition between, say, for instance, you guys and the guys in seating connection systems, or is it a case of everybody has to be aligned to one goal and it's healthy competition, if you understand?
Yeah, I think it's a healthy competition. I think, as I say, you know, it's a transformation of the business. I think the system side, the seating side has still a lot of growth in front of us. If you see the amount of software, the amount of technology that is going into the seating today is huge. Okay, you can go from you know, obviously all the passive safety of the passengers and the driver, you know, with the airbags and everything else, to comfort, to even you know, safety. Because today you can check if the driver is being, you know, in fitting conditions. You can check, you know, medical metrics, you know, health metrics like pulse, like temperature, like you know, attention, and all these things is becoming more and more important for us. So there is a lot of software being introduced into the seating side. In addition to that, the E-System side is basically what is going to drive the vehicle architecture in the future, right? And there's only, I would say, less than a handful of suppliers in the world that can provide that full system solution. We can design the vehicle architecture, you know, we can put it into reality because we have a wiring division, we have an electronics division, we have a connector division that is going to make everything work together and give the solution to the customer. So, as I said, there's very few people that can do that. And I think we are trying to grow and have a balanced growth between the two. Obviously, the seating grows with the number of cars produced. Yep. There's a limitation there, you know, which is the amount of cars that are going to be produced in the world. Yep. While the E-System is going to grow exponentially because the amount of systems that you're going to be seeing in the cars more is going to increase exponentially, okay? And while the production of cars is growing at 2%, 3% worldwide, the amount of electrification, autonomous driving, connectivity in the car is growing at north of 20, 30% CAGR every year, right? So the growth on E-Systems, the room in front of us is bigger than what it is, or it's less limited. I wouldn't say bigger, but less limited than the pure number of cars produced, right? We can put more content in every car.
Yeah. Okay, and for you, as you just mentioned, it's a transformation to get that business up to 50% of the E-Systems business. So when you're looking at that, how do you approach that transformation? Is it just fully focused around kind of a culture change for the kind of guys within the organization, or is it just getting people to buy into a new strategy and a new way of working. How does that work?
Well, I think it's a combination of factors, right? First and foremost, connection system is a product-driven business, right?
Mm-hmm.
You need to have the right product. So the first thing is to define what is your product portfolio strategy going forward, okay? And have a sound product strategy that is going to fulfill customer requirements, okay?
Mm-hmm.
At the different levels, at the level of the tier ones, basically the Contis, the Bosch, the Yasakis, the Sumitomos, the Leonis of the world, but also at the level of the OEMs, you know, with everybody in the industry. And at the same time, on the distribution side, I think, you know, connection system is a product that you can also buy in a B2C model, okay, which is very interesting. So defining that product strategy is key in order to make sure that you are going to have the right product to play in every different go-to-market opportunities, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's number one. And second is, and to me, probably the most important thing is having the right talent in the organization, right? And here's where, you know, making sure that you have the right capabilities, you have people who understand what is the current situation in the industry, what is the current needs that the car makers are having, but also what is the future needs. What are the mega trends? What is going to be the next thing that is coming, but not only the next thing, but what is the next two things that are coming, so we can get prepared for it and plan accordingly. And I think the third thing, which is important, is to have the support of the organization, right? And I think having somebody like Lear, which is one of the big players in the industry, with I would say, you know, important positions and in terms of customer positions, but also in terms of reputation and market knowledge and market penetration, is key. Okay, because it gives you that global reach. I think customers also are becoming more and more global, and that's, you know, they're expecting their suppliers to also become or be global. Okay, so I think that's the 3 or 4 key factors to grow.
Okay, and that's something that we hear a lot on the podcast, is how important talent is and having the right individuals in the organization to achieve any transformation. But then the key other factors you just said, buy-in from the organization. How important is the aspect of the customer to a transformation? Is it having the customer bought in, or does it work the opposite way, that you have to buy into the customer's ideas? How does that work?
I think the customer is critical always. Okay, customer first, and I think the customers are also going through that transformation of their models, right? Their business models. If you look at people like Volkswagen, they're going into, you know, you hear the CEO of Volkswagen today, everything that he's talking about is electrification. Okay, yeah. And there's a heavy focus on electrification, followed by autonomous driving, right, and infotainment. So that transformation is key, and I think what customers are looking is for capable partners that are going to help them to define that transformation. Mm-hmm. I think the beauty that we're having in automotive today is the amount of change is coming so fast and so often, you know, and it's such a big amount that everybody has kind of a revolution every day, you know, and you look at people like Tesla, that 10 years ago they were seen as people who were not really going to be, you know, leaders of the industry, and today they've been seen as a reference of, you know, where to go. And you know, every time Porsche or GM or Honda launch a new car, they are trying to compare their car with Tesla. You know? Not because Tesla is the compared to, but it's because it's kind of the future of the automotive, right? And it's been able to go that 2 or 3 steps ahead of everybody else, and define, you know, what is electrification means, what infotainment means, what connectivity means in the vehicle, right? And everybody's trying to beat them. I think that's what we are going to see more and more. So customers need to buy into our technology. They also need to partner with us, and we need to develop or co-develop with them, you know, what is going to be the future.
Yeah, no, I agree. And I think Tesla have been the catalyst for many changes. If you look at just how many startups we have now, anything from the likes of Lucid Motors, you have Fisker as well, that are all trying to really dominate in that area. And is that something that's a focus for Lear as a tier one, is to really obviously still work with the big German OEMs such as VW, Daimler, but also now really get into these kind of electric vehicle OEMs, kind of the guys that maybe even startup phase growing? Is that something that's a target for you guys?
Absolutely. I mean, the focus is on the electrification, wherever it comes from, right? And as you mentioned, a few guys that are not traditional players per se, right? But I think you can see the amount of focus of the traditional guys, the Volkswagens, the PSAs, the Volvos, the General Motors, the Fords on electrification is huge, right? I was reading today in the newspapers that GM is hiring in the Detroit area 1,200 people, engineers, just to focus on accelerate their electrification race, right? And offering. So it's so big that yeah, it's true that there's people that are going to be only electrical, okay, and you will never see them to produce a combustion engine vehicle. And those guys, obviously, they're dedicated to that. I think between that and the traditional guys, there is a number of configurations, which is the plug-in hybrids, you know, the full hybrid and the full battery vehicle, right?
Mm-hmm.
And what we're seeing here is that all those opportunities, all those customers are offering opportunities for a company like Lear, right? Mm-hmm. And with our product. And what we're trying to do is to cover that spectrum of customers, from the new guys who are very innovative on their technologies, but they are kind of to be seen in their volume production, mm-hmm. to the traditional guys who know how to make a car, you know, and they're transforming their manufacturing model and their business model to become more electrical, you know. So very interesting. I think both players are very focused onto that. We are in platforms with Tesla, but we also in platforms with Volkswagen on the ID vehicle. So
yeah, no, I understand that. And so, what is your opinion then? I ask a lot of the guys that I have on here when we talk about full electric vehicles, hybridization, the diesel engine, and even down to hydrogen fuel cells now. What is your viewpoint across those platforms?
I think for me to go full electric is going to take a number of years, right? Mm-hmm. And the reason for being full electric, I think there's 2 or 3 roadblocks or things that needs to be resolved before going full electric. I think first and foremost is the charging time, okay? I think every time we have to stop in the gas station, we always try to delay that moment to the maximum because we don't want to lose that 2 or 3 minutes mm-hmm. that we take in refilling our tanks, right? You think about an electric vehicle, even in the high charging solutions, you know, with Tesla, with others, you take a minimum of 10 to 15 minutes, okay, to a decent charge of the battery. And that's going to be a time that is, you know, a lot of people don't want to consume still today, right? The second problem is going to be the range, okay? Mm-hmm. Base ranges in the market today is still on the 500 kilometers average, many of those on 350, 400. So that's a problem that needs to be resolved, okay? And that's the way it's going to be done is by lighter vehicles, you know, that are going to be easier to, you know, to move and to transport. And obviously it's going to give us a higher range, more battery in the vehicle, okay? And that's going to be the second thing. I think the third thing is the battery production itself, right? Mm-hmm. And we see Tesla opening plants all over the place. We see suppliers of the big OEMs getting into that. And then non-traditional automotive guys like LG and others, you know, going into that industry and to that market opportunity. So I think those are the 3 things that are going to determine, you know, when the full electrification is going to happen. Until then, I think the hybrid solution is going to be, you know, more than a viable solution, and it's already a reality, you know, to create a hybrid car that, you know, you can use for the interurban driving, mm-hmm. and then when you go into autobahns or into the motorways, you use the combustion engine. I think that's going to be, you know, a reality, and it's already a reality, and the technique and the technology for those solutions is already existing. So mm-hmm. I think that's going to be the majority of the vehicles going forward. And then obviously the diesel and the gasolines, I think for my lifetime and I guess for my kids' lifetime is going to still there, right? Yeah. Because it's a energy that is relatively, you know, cheap. You know, because the range is easy, because there is an infrastructure today that is in place, mm-hmm. and to replace that the infrastructure is going to take a lot of years and a lot of money. Okay, so and countries will go in a different, or continents will go in a different speed, right? So when we think about Europe, North America, even China, I think electrification is going to come faster because there's support from the governments. When you talk about Africa and other countries that are less developed, it's going to take a little bit longer.
Okay. And then lastly, if we look at the hydrogen aspect, what's your viewpoint on hydrogen? Do you see that as something that could take over?
I think hydrogen is an alternative, Tyler. I think that the issue with hydrogen is that how you manipulate that, okay? I think hydrogen is nothing else than a gas, and still, you know, a gas that if it's not manipulated rightly can be a very dangerous gas, okay? And that's the biggest concern that the OEMs are having, that the car makers are having, is how to contend that, you know, how to make sure that we have a safety solution to it. I think is there. It's obviously a natural resource, is available. Again, the infrastructure is not complete in every country, in every region, and it's going to be a limitation. But it's a solution. It's a solution. I think that if you see people like some of key tier ones are definitely investing a lot of money into that, and a lot of OEMs are investing money into that as a, you know, intermediate solution to full electrification vehicles, or alternative to full electrification with a significant reduction on the contamination and the emissions, right? So.
Okay. And then obviously we've spoken about kind of the EV side, we've spoken about the transformation aspect, but obviously the plans that you had within Lear, they're huge plans to achieve a great goal. But how has COVID played to this? Because obviously it's been a thorn in many companies' side.
Yeah, I think COVID is playing to everybody in the same way. You know, it's been a downsize to begin with. I think everybody is slowed down, trying to figure out the way to continue working, the new normality that we are now more and more used. We are wearing masks, and you know, we all have to keep the distance between us, and you know, working on this stuff. And I think that's something that we are going to see more and more. You know. For us in Lear, being a big player, having 170,000 employees in the world, you know, is obviously something that is a big concern, and safety of our people is key, and it's probably the most important thing of all. So we are focused on that. We are thinking that COVID is not disappearing in January 2021. It's going to stay with us for a number of years, you know, and we are adapting our plans and our offices and our way of working accordingly, okay? Creating safe environments for our people and putting safety of our employees first, okay? So that's going to happen. In terms of the volumes, I think COVID got a big dip in the industry, and we saw that dip in Q2, Q3. I'm glad to say that the volumes today in the industry are, I would say, at the pre-COVID level. And I think what is the big question mark for everybody is what's going to happen in Q1. You know, what's going to happen with the new wave, the second wave that many countries are suffering right now, and what is going to be the impact of that, right? If the economy is slowed down, obviously, you know, I think the cars is the first thing that people don't buy. Especially if you're locked down at home, you don't need to go anywhere, so you don't need a new car.
Yeah, exactly. If you're locked down, you can't leave. And then Enrique, we've spoken about kind of how important the workforce is to any transformation. So when you're looking at potential leaders or guys that you want to promote within the workforce, what do you look for from a leader?
I think a leader needs to be somebody that first and foremost needs to have that curiosity to learn new things every day. You know, I think that curiosity is what it keeps people moving into the right direction. You know, it creates the need to do things in a different way, the need to ask questions that are sometimes comfortable and sometimes not that comfortable. And it creates the opportunity to see things in a different way, and creates business opportunities. But curiosity to me is important, to have people who are still curious, even if they are in the industry 30 years as I am in the industry, you know. I think the second thing is the willingness to do the extra mile, okay? I think today we are having more and more a kind of cultural thing that is people don't want to put what it takes in terms of effort and engagement, you know, kind of personal, you know, willingness and yeah, I think engagement is a word, right? And accountability. So I think that's important. So I'm looking for people who has that willingness to do things, who is engaged, who is going to be accountable for achieving the goals.
Mm-hmm.
And I think the third thing, what is very important, is the commitment. The commitment to deliver results. Okay, we do have a lot of activity in big companies like Lear and others. What is important is that we focus that activity brings results to the company. Okay, brings results on increasing the revenue, increasing the amount of customers we have, increasing the technologies that we put in the market, creating more better experience for our customers, creating better products, creating better drives every time people goes into a car. So that's very important for us, and it's very important for me. So that's the kind of things that I'm looking when I'm looking for talent.
Okay. And what would your advice be to somebody that is either just getting into the industry, or somebody that's a leader currently but aspires to go on and achieve what you have in terms of position, in terms of responsibility?
Yeah, as I said before, I think curiosity is number one. Be curious. Don't stop asking questions. Don't stop learning things. Don't stop, looking into what is going on around you, because I think that's very important. Sometimes we tend to concentrate on our close environment, and we don't look what is around. And with that, we lose a lot of opportunities. So keep growing.
Mm-hmm.
I think second thing is perseverance. Don't give up. I think that's probably been my motto for many, many years. Never give up. Always persevere. Okay, I think that's very important in an industry like automotive, and I think in life in general. I think the third thing is kind of commitment. People needs to be committed, okay? And commitment to the team, commitment to the company, commitment to oneself personally, be committed to achieve your goals, and to make sure that people around you is also committed, and you get to what you want to get.
Okay, no, I understand. And so, Enrique, what's your opinion on the industry as it stands currently?
I think the industry is in a very good moment right now.
Mm-hmm.
It's facing a lot of challenges. When we see technology challenges, environmental challenges, we have this COVID on top of us, and then the automotive industry is labor intensive. We employ millions of people around the world. So it's really a challenging situation from a health and safety point of view, something that traditionally we haven't been, too much focused on that in terms of, being a concern every day. Obviously, we always create safety environments in our plants, in our offices, but not to the level that we have to compete against a virus, right? We were competing against accidents. We were competing about things that were happening in our environment. We could somehow control by, creating additional elements, that were going to keep our people safe. I think from a technology point of view, Tyler, there's too many things going on in the industry. We have electrification, we have autonomous driving, we have infotainment, we have consumer connectivity, we have big data management, and all that is coming together at the same time. So I think the industry is facing a resource issue, how to find enough talent, enough money, and enough time to do all the things that we have on the table, right? And to be able to be a leader, and if not a leader, a fast follower in those technologies and on those market trends, So to me, that's probably the biggest challenge that all the OEMs are facing, how to bring all this new technology that customers are demanding to the market at a competitive price and on time, so.
And obviously, if it's something that you can reveal, but what's your secret behind it? What do you see being the best outcome for you, or how will you approach that?
Well, I think the way you do it is being sure that you start working with your customers on the development phase, right? Having that intimacy with the customer, understanding what is the customer needs, what are the market trends, what is the competition doing, right? Because it's also important to look around and understand what is the capabilities that you have internally from an engineering point of view, from a design point of view, from a manufacturability point of view, and trying to cover those gaps. Wherever you see a gap, reacting quick and giving velocity. I think velocity into market is becoming critical right now. I think in the past, you put a technology in the market and it will last at least 2 platforms, you know, which
Mm-hmm.
normally is 10 years in terms of, market opportunity.
Yeah.
Today, technologies are evolving every 2 years, right?
Mm-hmm.
Every customer is coming with something new every 2 years, and technologies are overlapping each other, you know, and with that, the requirements are overlapping. Okay, so it's important to be always on top, to be first as much as we can, and to be, you know, in the development phase, to be close to the customers, to have that customer intimacy,
Mm-hmm.
and to have the right talent in the team to be able to react fast and to be first in the market.
Okay, and Enrique, for someone that's worked for some of the biggest automotive suppliers out there in different areas, I know from kind of Belgium, Luxembourg, now Germany, kind of with all the travel, all the relocation, kind of how do you keep that kind of work-life balance and keep the job satisfaction to the height at where it is?
Well, I think to get to this type of jobs, Tyler, you have to have, first of all, you have to have the support of your family. I think it's important to have a family that give you that balance as well, right? So it's just, and as you say, I've been moving quite a lot on the family, you know, all the continents, many countries, and a lot of sacrifice personally.
Mm-hmm.
I think it is important to make sure that you're happy on doing what you're doing. Okay, and that's always been kind of my goal. You know, at the end of the day, you need to be happy where you are.
Mm-hmm.
You need to make sure that every time when you come to work, you come to do something that is exciting, that is motivating.
Mm-hmm.
And when you go home, you need to make sure also that you leave all the problems, all the worries that you have. Try to leave it in the office, right? Because
Mm-hmm.
in that time they need you there, right? So one of the things I always try to do is to be in the situation 100% or 200%, right? So if I'm in the office, I'm 200% here. When I'm at home, I try to be 100%, 200% for my family. Okay, and sometimes it's difficult to keep that balance, to be honest, but that's part of the job, right? And I think people need to understand that. I think COVID has proved that there can be that balance. You know, has also proved that traveling is important, but it's not completely necessary to run the business. Okay, and I think it's going to change a lot of things of how, you know, work and work balance is going to be in the future, right? Or it is already today, you know. So we'll see what is the outcome of all this situation, but it's definitely a change.
Okay, and then just touching on that, then, what would you say your biggest learnings are, or even Lear's biggest learnings have been from this COVID situation?
Well, I think that the biggest learning is, as I say, you know, first and foremost is the physical presence in a business is good, but it's not mandatory. Okay, and I think in an industry like automotive, is that physical presence, that the long working hours in the office, has been something that we have done a lot. Okay, and it's been heavily promoted. I think traveling is also necessary, but it's not mandatory. Okay, I think you can do video conference, you can continue business with customers, you can continue having workshops with your teams, meetings with your teams, without having to be there physically present. Okay, this is important. I think also what we have learned is that safety of our employees is key. You know, if you don't have people coming up and showing up in the lines every day, it doesn't matter how good is your system, it doesn't matter how good is your product, right? If you don't have people to produce, it's game over, right? So it's important that we take care of the safety of our team at all times. Okay, and I think what is also important is the mobility. You know, I think we traditionally talk about the automotive is focused on a few areas in the world. You know, is Detroit for North America, is Germany and France, but basically Germany for Europe, and in Shanghai for Asia Pacific. But today we see more and more that it doesn't matter where you are. You know, you can be with people around the world, and everybody can work remotely, and people don't need to be in Detroit, you know, to be in the automotive industry in North America.
No, I understand. And Enrique, as you mentioned, you've worked for some large companies. who would you say throughout your career then, whether it was in the position you're in and be a CEO or someone that you've reported to, who would you say has been the most influential person within your career?
Well, I think the most influential person, apart from my father, which was a big influence for me because he was a real entrepreneur. He spent 50 something years of his life working in automotive. So he was a very influential person, not only for me, but I think for a lot of people in this industry. I think professionally, Harry Nair to me has been one of the, of the key players and one of the leaders I have had the opportunity to work with and for. That has been a true leader to me. He's been a true mentor, and I think it's very important in this industry to have that few, players, a few key people that help you to develop and to move forward in your career. So to me, Harry is the kind of leader that, kind of groups all the values. He's a great professional. He's a great manager, but at the same time, he's a great human being. He's a great mentor. And it really takes care of the teams, and I think that's basically what I'm trying to follow. That's kind of the example I try to follow, to be a good leader while you're continue taking care of the human aspect, of the job, which is very important.
Okay, and is that something that you do now, kind of look at mentoring and developing the teams that you have around you for people to excel, should we say?
Yeah, I think what I try to apply is what I call the Hola factor, okay? The Hola in Spanish, which is the HOLA, which is help others to look amazing, okay? And it's a little bit selfish here, Tyler, because I think you help others to look amazing around you, eventually or automatically, depends how you want to see it, you are going to look amazing too, okay? Yeah. And that's always been my focus. So one of the big achievements in my career is to grow and develop people. And one of the biggest satisfaction for me is to get people in very high positions, people who've been working in my teams before, to become, and big executives in other companies. I think that's a great thing. And it's probably the only legacy we are going to leave here, right? I mean, there's not much more legacy than people, in an industry like automotive, names come and buy, and people forget names very quickly, and it's important to be remembered because you were a good leader, but also because you were a good human being.
Okay, and other than how you're developing and how you want to leave a legacy, what would you say your key achievements have been to date that you're most proud of, Enrique?
I think, in general, I think the career has been quite successful, Tyler. If I look back in 1995 when I finished school and I started working for Tenneco, I would have never thought that my career would have evolved in a way it has done it. Okay, I think I was always thinking I will always stay in Valencia in Spain. I will always be part of automotive, but never at the level I've been, in this career. And I think it's been a great experience in terms of getting to know people. I think that's probably the biggest achievement, the opportunities of going around the world a few times, living in few countries and few continents, and getting to know hundreds of people that are really valuable for me, and people that I, related as friends in many cases, and people that are related to me as a person that helped them in their careers and in their lives. So that's definitely the biggest achievement.
Okay, and Enrique, I've got two questions before we wrap up and finish because I know you're a busy man. So one of them is, what can the industry, what can the people listening into this and anybody interested in automotive expect to see from Enrique Orta over the next 5 or 10 years?
Well, I think expectations is I keep growing, right? And not only myself, but I keep growing the team around me and growing the business I'm in. Okay, that's been always my modus operandi. I mean, if you see every position I've been trying to grow personally, grow the business, and grow the team. And my expectations is I'm still have a good 10 years ahead of me, and I'm trying to keep doing that, which I think is leading teams, leading businesses and you know, creating opportunities for people and creating opportunities for companies.
Okay. And if we sat here and had this conversation in 10 years' time, what would the legacy of Enrique Orta look like?
Well, I would like to be remembered as the guy who was a good leader. Mm-hmm. That would be it, you know, somebody that was always there to lead the team, to grow the people, to grow the team, to grow the members in the team, and somebody that a lot of people will be grateful to know and you know, happy to work with. That would be my best legacy. I would not care much about, you know, ending as a CEO or COO. I think I've been there. You know, I've done many high positions. I think what is important at the end of the day is that you help others to develop and you are happy with what you're doing every day.
Okay, perfect. Well, Enrique, it's been an absolute pleasure speaking with you, understanding and letting you share your story. I'm sure the people listening would have got a lot out of the conversation and now look at you in a different light, should we say. But Enrique, I want to thank you for your time. It's been a pleasure speaking with you and I look forward to catching up with you soon.
Thank you, Tyler. It's been a pleasure on my side too. Thank you. Take care.